Appreciate you joining us. I want to bring in now tonight's panel. Ann Guerin, a veteran reporter with the Washington Post, Chris Kofinis, a Democratic strategist, now the CEO of Park Street Strategies, and Robert Trainum, a former Bush-Cheney advisor, now a VP with the Bipartisan Policy Center and MSNBC contributor. Okay, I want to start with the Russia interference in the U.S. election and the news from our NBC News Wall Street Journal poll that only 29% of Republicans, if we can pull it up here, are bothered a great deal or quite a bit by Russia's interference in the election. So like fewer than 1 in 3 Republicans here. How hard are Capitol Hill Republicans going to fight on this issue, given where their base is, if they are, in fact, more concerned about it? And we have heard concern from Republicans on Capitol Hill. Well,
I think they're going to push it because I think it goes to their own personal preference for these issues. I think the problem here for establishment Republicans, like, you know, when you're talking about John McCain and others like him, is I'm not sure they have yet, and we're all going to find out here in about a few weeks, the Trump reality. And the Trump reality is he is not going to shy away from challenging people in his own party. It is how he became the nominee.
But Chris, it doesn't matter.
I agree with you, and I'm not questioning that we shouldn't be doing this, and I understand, and I personally believe this is a serious issue that needs to be addressed. I'm looking at it from the politics of it, too, which is, I think, to the poll question. I think where the Republicans are going to be in a box here is as much as they're unified in terms of they control all the chambers and the White House, they're as divided as ever in some respects because they have someone in the White House who is going to look at the same facts that they're going to look at and come to a completely different conclusion. That has not happened before.
And so, well, I mean, that's exactly what I mean. This hearing could result in a finding, essentially a congressional finding. Won't be like a written determination, but the evidence presented at the hearing and the way Congress approaches it that agrees with the intelligence community unanimously that this broad and targeted hacking happened in a different way than has happened in any previous election, where the information was selectively leaked and essentially, as you say, weaponized. And then what? Then you have a Republican-led Congress agreeing with the intelligence community, and we do not yet know what the Republican president will do with that information.
And then think about it, over the next 4 years. Think of the potential foreign policy crises that we may have, that we may need to get involved, that affect America's national interests, where the intelligence community is saying one thing and the president of the United States is simply choosing to ignore it. Right? Where you create this battle between Republicans and Democrats in Congress saying one thing, the intelligence community saying another, and the president of the United States saying, I just don't agree. So you heard Sean Spicer sort of be pressed about this, not just yesterday, but today as well, this morning on the Today Show, on our network, elsewhere. I want to play a little bit of what he said. We played it earlier, but I got to replay it again. And I want you to listen to the comparison he makes here. Play it.
Why aren't we talking about the influence, other influences on the election? Why aren't we talking about Hillary Clinton, get debate questions ahead of time? That's a pretty valid attempt to influence an election.
Chris, your head was in your hands as I was playing this.
This is why he recovers.
But is that the equivalency that he is drawing?
Of course.
This is silliness.
Here's what we know. We know that WikiLeaks got the information from a Russian hack with the DNC. We know that, okay? So to suggest, and Sean is my dear friend, I've worked with him for many, many years, but to suggest that a planted question by a CNN analyst that went to Secretary Clinton is on the same level as trying to influence a national election. It's like me comparing. It's like me comparing. I can't even come up with the comparison. It's ridiculous and it's laughable, but it's also very, very sad.
Well, I mean, listen, Sean Spicer is clearly trying to spin his way out of a fundamental PR problem.
Or make it a media argument, right?
Or make it a media argument, which is false. But here's the real simple reality. Hillary Clinton lost. It is over. Right? Whatever happened in the election is done in terms of what they think influenced or didn't influence on the Democratic side.
It didn't help.
Right? Yeah, no joke. The question here is you have clear Russian influence, according to the intelligence agencies, in an American election. What are we going to do about it? If the question is nothing, then we set as a nation, forget about politics, forget about partisanship, we set a very dangerous precedent going forward.
We have a ton more to talk about, and we are out of time in this segment, which is why I'm making you all hang out until later in the show. So thank you. We'll be back with Ann, Chris, and Robert. Appreciate it. You should stay with us, too, because coming up, we're going to turn to international events now. An update on the manhunt for the gunman in this weekend's attack in Istanbul.